Patrick. Okay. All right. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited about this episode, and I also love your voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You definitely have a voice for radio.
That's what I've also been told that I have a face for radio too, but we won't get into that. But yeah, I actually do a lot of voiceover work as kind of like a hobby.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into our episode. So those of you who are joining in, I know this is a consistent time every week. This is episode 4 of DQ Debrief with Paul, Hubbard, and I'm so excited to hear your story, hear just everything we can squeeze in 30 minutes, right?
Right, yeah.
So, Paul, why don't we start off? And I know we had spoken before we actually, went live, and I really like these conversations to be very organic. So I don't really know your story. So I would love to kind of hear, sorry, I'm trying to move my camera. It's like tilted. I would love to hear, what is your dyslexia story? And, what are you comfortable sharing with our audience?
That is a loaded question. There's a lot that goes into someone who has dealt with dyslexia their whole life. There's a lot of nuances and situations you find yourself in. But if I was to do the slightly summarized version, I'd have to basically start is I didn't know I had dyslexia or ADHD, which I have as well, until college. So I was homeschooled for a good portion of my elementary years. In conversations with my parents, retrospectively, it was because my behavior was awful. They did not think I'd do well in a public school setting or a school setting in general, because I couldn't sit still. My mom would do like phonics reading with me, and I would just go nuts. It was ever since I was little, I was just like, I don't get this. It doesn't make sense to me. No matter how many times she repeated it to me, I was like, I don't understand, and I don't understand why I don't understand, but I don't. And so that led to a lot of, being self-conscious about these words that everyone was reading, but somehow I was not able to. And so that was very difficult. Well, I eventually, I was recruited for sports. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. So I was basically told to join school for that reason, because they're like, we need you to play for us. So it was like for football and basketball. They recruited me for football first, and then the basketball coach was like, hey, you're 6'6"? Yeah, be basketball too. But that's a whole other story. But I started to get into, they had done something where I could still be homeschooled. So my freshman year of high school, I was still homeschooled, but I was able to play sports if I, did some stuff with the school. And then the next year I was just like, I want to try public school. I want to give it a try.
Right.
The benefit and the disadvantage of being at the school I was, it was a very rural school, so not a lot of people. My graduating class was 21 kids. So like,
where are you from?
Oh, Idaho. I'm born and raised in Idaho.
That's kick.
That actually gives some context, because I think Idaho is one of the 4 or 5 states that has no dyslexia laws.
Yes, and they're also among the lowest paid teachers as well.
Wow.
And they're not the bottom, but they're pretty close to. One of the reasons why I'm in Illinois teaching now instead of Idaho, but because of it being a very rural school, I was not evaluated. I had, to the point of when I got to high school, I had enough coping mechanisms, that I was able to do low B, C level work, and I fit right in with the lazy group of, athletes that were just getting by,
right.
Because they weren't doing the work. I was trying my hardest, but still not getting as good of grades.
Right.
So it led to me, kind of just not being, flying below the radar. I remember having a conversation with my school counselor. I was like, I think I need extra help.
Yeah.
Because this seems way harder than it is for other people. And also, I was very aware my reading level was way lower than everyone else in my class. I have a friend, Kelsey, who she was in my class, and she would do me the immense favor. If I paused on a word for a couple seconds, she would just say it. Oh. And that to me was like, whew, okay.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I can breathe.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter how long I stare at the word, I'm not going to be able to get it fast enough. And I already was embarrassed, so that kind of just helped me like, whew, okay, I don't have to worry about that word. But so I knew my reading level was low, and I knew that there was something wrong. So I went to my school counselor, and she said, well, I think I have some color overlays I could give you. And that was like the extent of what I got in high school. Which
did that help?
No, not really. Yeah, it was kind of like put a Band-Aid on the
right.
disembodied arm. It's like doesn't really do anything. It's like it might have worked for some, but it was an accommodation, not a individualized education plan.
Right. Right.
So, but a lot of my teachers really did work with me because some of them, not all of them, saw my efforts. They saw that I was trying. So they're like, I'm going to give, them the benefit of the doubt that they are working. And the fact was, I was working. I worked from 3 to 4 times as long on any given assignment that my peers did. Still poor in terms of grade-wise, but I would work much longer. In fact, because I played sports, and I also worked in the mornings as a custodian to help pay for gas to get to and from practice. I lived about 20 miles away from the school, so if I wanted to be in sports, I had to pay for it somehow. So I'd go to work at like 5 a.m. and I'd work for 2 hours, then go to school, then do practice. Then I would work on homework from about 5 p.m., which is when practice would get out normally, all the way until midnight. And then I would repeat that same process over and over again. And that was my existence in high school. That was what I did to survive.
Just need to survive. Wow.
Yeah. Because I had to have good grades. Sports was a big motivator for me to do that, because I had to pass classes. But that was my existence, because it would take me so much longer for me to do the things that other kids were doing no problem or last minute, that I could not do last minute. I had to take my time. So that is all, that was my pre-college experience. Well,
before you were diagnosed.
Right. So I had basically going into, ACTs and SATs, nightmare. Yeah. Just, oh my goodness, nightmare. I somehow got, high enough. I don't even remember the number anymore, but it was high enough to get into like a couple schools. And I had a lot of schools looking at me for football, because I was one of the top 10 players in my state for a time. And so that was like, I'm going to get to college through that method. I'm going to get a scholarship and, do what I need to do. Well, I knew going into college, I was like, I'm going to need help, because I could barely make it through high school, and that was with the support of friends, which I can't guarantee that I have in all my college classes. So I, had to kind of go in with this idea that I am going in as if I won't make it unless I have help. So I immediately, first day, I immediately went to the registrar where they have the student support office, and I said, hey, I need you to know I have never been diagnosed, but I am just not, I can't do it. I can't read very well. I think I have, because I had done research, I think I have dyslexia or something, because reading has always been hard. And then they went through the process of, getting me officially labeled, diagnosed, and then they started offering, note takers, the ability for extra time on tests, those kind of accommodations that colleges do. And then I walked right over to the Center for Student Success, which is like a separate thing just for anybody that can do that. And where you can get like a counselor for academic counselor. And I went in there and I got a counselor first thing, and that's what I did. I went and got support. And that's honestly the only reason I made it through school. Because I had to, I knew going in, I dropped my pride at the door and I said, I'm not going to try to do this on my own because I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to, I was already running myself into the ground with high school classes, but I'm now a higher level. And I don't have more hours in a day, so how am I going to do this? And not only college, you have so many advanced classes that they all expect a numerous amount of homework. There's so much homework that comes with college classes, and they all think they're the only class in school. So you add that all on, and then they always somehow all end up being due at the same week, and all that stuff. So that was, I went into that, and that was probably the best move I could have made because it got me the help I needed early. But then, so I have to back up a little bit. My high school English teacher, Mrs. Rankin, she was the only reason really I went to college anyways, because I had no confidence before this thing that happened with her. I had gone to class and I had written this atrocious grammar, destroyed. There's nothing. There's an essay that just made no sense. It was
nothing
just salvageable. Nothing salvageable. All marked in red. And she called me up after class, and I'm like, oh no, because one of the biggest fears of people who struggle with this is oh, I'm going to be found out. I'm going to now they're going to be like, oh, I was looking over your homework. It turns out you're a complete idiot, and that's what I was afraid of, because I go into a class and be like, these are smarter people than me. They're going to see, that I am reading at a third grade level as a senior in high school, as a junior in high school, and so I was scared, when she said that she wanted to see me after class. And try not to get emotional because this is an emotional one, but she called me up and she showed me my paper, which was too short, spelling was non-existent, and she said there's a lot of things we need to work on. There are a lot of grammar, spelling things that we need to work on, but that is something within my wheelhouse to work on. I am able to help you with that. What is not easily taught is these original thoughts you had on the topic, things that I haven't seen or thought of before. That is not easily taught, and basically that gave me permission to be like, I am smart, I am intelligent, I have something of value, because this teacher, who is clearly smarter than me, at least in word smarts, in book smarts, was telling me hey, you had a good point in your essay, and that's something that I cannot teach. I can teach semantics, I can teach grammar, I can teach all of that, sentence structure. That's something that we can work on, but this thought that you have, this original thought, is something that I can't teach. It's not easily taught. And that gave me the confidence of okay, I have an asset going in. I know that I have a different way of looking at things at the very least. I have something that makes me unique in the upper echelon, something that I am exceptional at, even if it's not the basic stuff that, we all feel that everyone should have, even if, it's not the case. There's a lot of illiterate people out there, but we feel like we're the only one when we're the ones, reading. Especially since I wasn't in that special ed department, I didn't see anyone else struggle. I just saw my classmates, which are one's like a chemical engineer, one's a veterinarian. Like all of my classmates were very, very smart in that area, and I was always significantly lacking in that area.
Right.
But because of that teacher's influence, I went to college wanting to be an English education major, which is, it was like the fact that confidence, I was that confident. I was like, I'm going to go do this. Because also I'd never back down from a challenge.
Good.
But
that's a strength too. That's the strength with dyslexics. Like, it's just, you've worked so hard for so long that you're like, what's
more hard work?
What's an extra challenge?
Yeah, either that or a masochist, one or the other. But we have that that drive that we've done the pain, we've done it, so why not keep doing it? Got through it. But then I got a hold of Dr. Stipp. He was the leader of the special education department. They had just kind of started an education program for special education. And I had showed him that I needed accommodations for one of his classes. And he was like, would you be interested in hearing us out on being a special ed teacher? And we had that discussion. And he said, I know that like you already want to be a teacher, so there's that going for you. But a special ed teacher is, if you have something that you can bring uniquely that is very uncommon in a special ed teacher, you can relate to these feelings and emotions that these kids are going through on a regular basis. You are able to very much see them for who they are.
Exactly.
Because you are not going to get caught up on the symptoms of what they're showing. Because you're going to see yourself in these kids, and you're going to see the depression, you're going to see the feeling lack of confidence, you're going to see all these coping mechanisms to get out of work, because they are fighting against that discovery of being stupid. They don't want to be stupid. They would much rather be bad and much rather be, have bad behavior.
Behavioral issues, exactly.
Because that's their choice. Because I'm choosing to be bad. I could be good if I wanted to, but I don't know if I can choose not to be stupid. And that fear is very real. I very much experienced that, which makes me approach all of my kids with a much more patience, for one, and also like, hey, what is going on behind the surface? Because because this behavior that you're exhibiting doesn't add up. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Which is a much better approach as I believe a teacher, a parent, anybody, to look at a child and see, well, there's clearly something going on behind the scenes. And yelling at them right back, or doing something to them that is going to make them feel more dumb or more stupid, is not gonna benefit anybody. I so wish that I had a teacher like me who said, hey, I still can't spell without spell check and a program of some kind. I still have to look up words on Google. It's a thing that I still do. I get words wrong. I look at a word, I'm like, what is that word? I still don't know. I'm an adult. I teach this stuff, but I'm still. You still struggle. I still struggle, and that is important for kids to see.
It is
to see an adult being successful, but also struggling. Because that gives them something to shoot for. It also says like, oh, this isn't the book smart, always wanted to be a teacher's pet, who's been a teacher, wanted to be a teacher their entire life. Which, that's a lot of passion, but it's hard for someone to relate who has never been good in school with someone who is always been good in school. It's just hard. It's not impossible, but it's an extra challenge. I can go into a classroom and basically just say, I get it. I understand you. I know what you're feeling. In fact, I lead off the year saying, hey, I just want to let you know, I have disabilities. I have these disabilities. I still struggle. You will see me make mistakes. I will do my best to correct them, but I'm also not going to apologize for them, because mistakes are a part of learning.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. I love, I mean, just listening to your story and then hearing that you're a special educator, knowing your challenges, I definitely feel like kids relate to that when you are honest with them. Kids know, they're intuitive. You know, they know at first grade, third grade, 12th grade, if my teacher likes me, if my teacher gets me. You know, like your high school teacher that basically was like, okay, I see, you know, you struggle with the grammar and all that, but you're so smart. And those are areas for me as a special educator. I always try, like you said, to get to that root cause. Like, I see what you're doing, but I don't think that's what you want to be doing. Let's figure out, why are you masking whatever behaviors into this? You know, is it, you know, every time that maybe the gen ed teacher asks, let's do popcorn reading, this kid all of a sudden starts acting out? Well, there's a problem. You know, you need to really unpack that. And I think that there's so many special ed teachers that do have their own disabilities. I mean, I know I have ADHD, and I tell kids, I'm like, I lose this, and sometimes I need to go back and, you know, figure out that, and I'm late for this, and, you know, and they appreciate that. They laugh and like, oh, but you're a teacher, you're supposed to know everything. It's like, no, we still human.
You know, and the teachers that claim to know everything are just making it up. Like, it's not like all teachers know everything. It's very much so like teachers know enough to make you stop and asking questions. You know, they can flaunt what they do know to help you, like, oh, well, I didn't know that, so I'm gonna lay off. But there's a lot of teachers that are just, they don't know. They look it up. They find out. You know, a lot of teachers are just learners that keep learning.
Right. Lifelong learners.
Right.
So Paul, I know that we are coming close to the end of our time, but I do want to ask you a question. So you're originally from Idaho. How did you get to Illinois? And are you in the city? Are you in rural Illinois? Tell us a little bit about that transition and where you're teaching now.
Yes. So I teach in Southern Illinois. It's in a city. I don't like to share my personal school information, but
totally fine. I just wanted to know, like, are you in Chicago? Are you in the rural part? You said Southern Illinois.
Yeah, Southern Illinois, in a decently sized city, but it's very urban, but also it's, you know, much further south than Chicago. It is very, very good for the kids that I work with are the kids that really need someone who's patient and understanding. They've not gotten that a lot. And so one of my big missions is to be that teacher that can be the Mrs. Rankin for them, you know, that gives them the confidence. I think is very, very important. So that's kind of my mission, is to share these things, the relatability. You know, I'm trying to give other teachers the ability to be like, if I had the opportunity to ask questions of my students and understand, like, them to be able to give thought out, reflective answers of that, I'm trying to give that to teachers. I want to give teachers the ability to be like, I don't know, I don't think I'll ever relate, but I'll talk to an adult that does, and then we can have a educated conversation on what it looks like, and even like have research to back it up, and so that's kind of my mission. That's why I started a podcast called Special Education, is just to do that, to present a side that I feel is very unique, a unique side of special education, which is someone who both has and teaches. There are a few obviously out there, but it's a small margin, and I think a lot of people can learn from that.
That's amazing. So for our audience out here listening, you should definitely follow Paul and check out his podcast. I'm going to check out your podcast. I think I saw you had, don't you have some sort of affirmations on your highlights or something that's like positive? Because that's where I heard your voice and I was like, oh, I can't wait for this.
Yeah, so I try to do, morning deep inspirational quotes.
That's what it is.
Yes, and I find a quote, and then first thing in the morning, I go and I do, in my deep voice, I do the quotes to help encourage educators going into each day. Yeah, so that's something that I do as well. So if you want to follow for that, I can definitely.
I love that. Yes.
Just a little bump in the right direction for teachers in the morning, just to help realign their focus, because it's hard. Like, teaching is a very difficult profession for no matter what you do.
Right.
This year, not excluded from that. It's very difficult. But there is also still, in fact, even more so, a greater need for those teachers to show extra patience and to show these kids that they are still important in the midst of global crisis.
Right.
They are still a focus. And so I really enjoy any positive push for teachers, because there's a lot of negative stuff in the teaching community right now.
Yes.
And I really want to be a light, someone who encourages and reminds you of why you became a teacher in the first place.
And that is a good place to refresh, because I feel like for me, I've been in this game for 11 years now, and then you have people who've been doing this for 15 years or 30 years, and they're just like, I've always done it this way. And it's good to always kind of relearn and get those affirmations and remember why you started. It's not just to have summers off. Yes, thank you for putting that in. I'll have to check that out as well.
There's also a link in my bio that links to my podcast as well, so you can also find it on there.
Well, Paul, this was amazing, and I know, as I say to everyone, a half hour is never enough time to share your story, but I really want to be able to use my platform as a place to have a spotlight, a weekly spotlight on folks out there who maybe have never told their story, or who maybe want to share it so others can relate. So I'm just so excited that we connected, and I'm looking forward to continuing to follow you and your journey. And if you ever want to come back on and share maybe a different teacher perspective and how maybe you're doing accommodations and all that, I'm sure the audience and myself, we would love to hear that. So Paul, thank you so much for your morning, because it's almost 11:30 for you. And yes, we'll be in touch.
Definitely. I really appreciate you having me on here, and I constantly am listening to your stories and your posts and the interviews you've done as a way to encourage me as well. So I appreciate all that you're doing. I love to see someone advocate for people who are struggling with dyslexia.
Definitely. Well, it takes a team, right? It's a team effort, and I'm just so excited to always connect with folks in the community. So thank you, everyone who joined in, and if you're watching this later, not live, please share this with anyone and everyone. We want to get the message out, and that's what this platform is for. So have a good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever everyone is, and Paul, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.